Welcome back. Today we're going to take a look at some new AOS models, and I'm kind of excited, but I'm also wondering if we're at the point now where the AOS equivalent, the Age of Sigmar parallel to Primaris Lieutenants, is vampire or just undead heroes. Because, dear God, that range specifically has got so many, single, unique characters. It's unreal just how many of those there are. And now, it's got even more like that because we've got the Blades of the Hollow King. Now, if you're thinking to yourself, okay, the Hollow King actually sounds familiar, well, there's a reason for that. We've already seen a model for the Hollow King. So this is Cado Ezechiar, I think that's how you pronounce that, the Hollow King, and this is a great model. I actually really like this model. I'm not going to try and remember how long it's been out for, but he's been available for a little while. Well, I say available for a little while, it clearly says temporarily out of stock, so he's not available right now, at least not in the UK, but he's been around for a bit, right? But now, we have more of him. We have more of Cado, and he's got friends with him, including a friendly ghost. Not Casper. Is that an old reference? You know what? I have a horrible feeling that if I were to now Google Casper the Friendly Ghost, I would immediately crumble into dust and become a ghost myself from the impact of suddenly realising how old that reference is. So I'm not going to do that. We're going to move on and pretend that... We'll just pretend that didn't happen. We need a more contemporary reference. Has he got a stand? Bit of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure stuff going on there? Anyway, Cado's back, and he's got some companions with him. And if you don't know anything about Cado, then there's a nice little breakdown that they provide here. A little bit of backstory for you. Considered a renegade by the New Lamian... Oh, wow. By the New... oh, dear. New Lamians? Sure. That was awful. I'll just leave it in, whatever. Cado stalks the mortal realms in pursuit of those who worship the dark gods. A vengeful revenant who walks a fine line between accepting the Soulblight curse and retaining his honour until his mission is complete. After the destruction of his kingdom and the death of his family, Neferata offered him the opportunity to hunt his enemies. He accepted without pause, unaware of her famously cruel and possessive nature, and was eventually forced to leave her court to begin his life as an exile. Someone who's undead and being cruel? Surely not. Wherever he goes, he is accompanied by the souls of former mentors, counsellors, and companions bound to his rings. The scholar mage Solia, his closest confidant and confessor, still retains her free will and literally has his back in this new miniature. I'm already of the opinion that looks pretty damn cool, but when you see it a bit bigger, oh, that is nicely done. Of course, it helps that the ghost friend there, Scholia, the wispy woman, looks really cool. And they've done a really good job with the paint job there as well. Like, the glowy eyes with the light kind of falling down across the cheeks and down to the mouth. It's just very nicely painted, which helps a lot. The pose on both their parts is really nicely done as well. I like the fact that we've got a little bit of the hero pose going on. We do have some tactical rocks and a little bit of tactical dead tree as well. But it's not just a standing looking noble pose. But then we've already had that, right? The old model... we had the standing there looking noble. This time round, we've got a nice mix of kind of heroic and springing into action. That kind of half-unsheathed sword looks really nice. I just think it presents a very nice little snapshot of just before things go down, you know? The armour looks fantastic. Again, the cloak is really nice. I seem to remember really liking the cloak the first time round. And it's still a good cloak. It still looks grand. I actually really like the hair as well on this one. The hair's really nicely done. It's not too fine, but it's also not too, jagged. There's a thing with a lot of the Soulblight stuff especially, where they seem to go for these really harsh angles, these really harsh kind of breaks in, flowing textures. But we don't really have that on this model, which I quite like. It's nice that we also have, all of the cloth and all of the movement going in the same direction. That's something else that they can be a little bit rough with. There can be models where it's one thing is flowing one way, something else is flowing completely the opposite direction, and it kind of takes away from the movement of the model. This doesn't have that. The cloak and the hair match. You've also got that little decoration going on the belt, which looks like it's matching as well. And the smoke from the ghost, whilst it is kind of wisping upwards, it's still overall the direction is the same. It's really nicely done. It is also just a very fun take on the kind of two models, diorama style of miniature, where they are different, but they've been integrated in a really nice fashion that has it's got a lot of impact. The Soulblight Gravelords range is full of pretty cool vampire characters, and they've actually achieved something here, which is to make a pretty cool vampire character that looks properly different from the rest, has a unique selling point, but it doesn't actually take away from the fact that at the core of it, you're looking at another vampire lord. Everything slots in nicely with the rest of the range, but I would suggest this is a properly unique model. It's really nicely done. It's not just those two though, we've also got Sissendra, who is a duelist and a vampire, and also there is Aurelias, who is not a vampire. We'll have a look at Sissendra first. Now this feels like a really good in-action pose. I really like this. There's a good amount of momentum. I think they've used the angle of the terrain there just to lend itself really nicely to... It still looks solid, it still looks like the model is pretty firmly rooted, but at the same time, looks very lithe, very quick. I love the cloth that's going on. That's really, really nice. And the cape kind of billowing out behind her as she's sprinting forward is a nice touch. Pretty good face as well. Pretty good face. I will say for a lot of the vampire stuff that they've done for the Soulblight Gravelords, the faces look decent, but this one works really nicely. It is quite an exaggerated pose, like the fact you've got that dagger that... I'm assuming dagger. It's very big. I don't know. I'm not an expert on dagger sizes, but it seems sizable. It's obviously very exaggerated, like the arm going fully around the face and then having that sword raised quite high up behind you as you're sprinting. It's definitely a bit over the top, but then again, I think sometimes things being that little bit over the top just adds to the drama of it a little bit. Like when you put them side by side, when you've got Cado unsheathing the sword with his ghostly friend sort of rearing up behind him, and then you've got her, Sissendra, sprinting out into the open. It tells a nice little story, which, I don't know, I like it. I think it's working pretty well. I do really like the armour on this character as well. I like it a lot. Still feels like there's a decent amount of protection, but it feels a bit lighter than Cado's stuff, and it feels a bit more kind of inclined towards easier movement, which makes sense if you've got a duelist / rogue type character, you know? I will also say that, again, despite the fact that there are quite a few vampire lord type models in the range, this one, again, it feels different. It doesn't feel like just another one. There's something a little bit more unique and interesting about this one, I think. And the third one is Aurelias, mortal, but a death mage, with a twin-headed serpent canistrix. Kind of reminding me of that other Soulblight Gravelords character with the big snake, whose name I cannot remember now. There we go, this one. Similar hat. Similar hat, and of course extreme snake vibes. Although I will say that of the two of them, one of them looks significantly more healthy than the other. But then again, I guess she's dead, whereas he is not. So, you know, the snake looks nice and threatening. The actual mage looks kind of arrogant. There's definitely a sort of I'm better than you look going on there, which is fun. The hat is extremely over the top, as is the staff. The staff is comically large. That is a insanely tall staff. If you take the hat off, right, assuming his head is not the same shape underneath, that staff is twice the height of him. There's definitely an air of arrogance going on. And again, if you're being protected by a snake that looks like that, would you be a bit arrogant? I think most people would have a hint of it, you know? I do like the fact that the two heads on the snake are very, very different. I will say one is distinctly more threatening than the other one. The one with all the big spikes and the gigantic teeth you can see, I suggest that one is quite a bit scarier, you know? The other head is positively cute in comparison, and I don't know that that's necessarily what they were going for, but I just can't help myself. Bottom head, scary as hell. Top head, kind of adorable. So they've currently got a war scroll in the Soulblight Gravelords battle tome, but they will be playable as Regiment of Renown for the other three, the Flesh Eater Courts Nighthaunt and Arcearch Bone Reapers, which is fun. I think of the three, my favourite is Cado himself. I just think that's a really fun model all round. It's nicely sculpted, the pose is really fun. That mix of vampire and protective ghost works really well and really feels like it's bringing something a little bit different to the table. So, of the three, I really like Cado himself. That being said, the other two are really quite fun. These are some good minis. They've done well here. So there you go, that's the Blades of the Hollow King. I quite like them. They look pretty decent. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. In the meantime, feel free to click all the things. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you for the next one.